The wind whispered secrets across the vast sun-drenched plains, a language I understood from the moment I was born. I was a creature of the wild, my coat the color of sun-bleached grass, my spirit as untamed as the storms that rolled over the mountains. My mother's soft neigh was my first lesson. The thunder of my herd's hooves, my first song. We ran with the wind, our manes a flowing river of freedom, our home, the endless horizon. Life was a whirlwind of new scents, playful nips from other foals, and the constant, reassuring presence of my powerful sire. I was learning the ways of the wild, the subtle signs of danger, the best patches of sweetgrass, the path to the coolest, clearest streams. But my world, so vast and full of promise, was about to shrink to the size of a cage. It happened on a day when the sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue. The air was still, heavy with a strange silence. My mother grew anxious, her ears twitching, her nostrils flaring. Suddenly, the ground trembled with a different kind of thunder, a rhythmic, mechanical beat that drowned out the familiar pulse of our hooves. Strange, two-legged creatures appeared, their voices harsh and loud, so different from the soft whickers of my herd. Panic erupted. We scattered, a chaotic explosion of fear. I tried to stay close to my mother's side, her powerful form a shield against this new terror. But in the confusion, a rope, a snake of rough fiber, whipped through the air and coiled around my neck. I fought. I bucked. I called for my mother with a desperate, shrill cry. But the rope tightened, choking my calls, pulling me away from everything I had ever known. The last I saw of my family was their terrified eyes and disappearing tails as they vanished over a ridge, leaving me alone in a cloud of dust and despair. The world became a blur of jolting movement and terrifying sounds. I was pushed into a dark, rattling space, the smell of fear and other horses thick in the air. The endless plains were gone, replaced by wooden walls that scraped my sides. Days and nights bled into one another. When the doors finally opened, I stumbled out into a world of fences and dust. This was a pen, a prison of straight lines and sharp corners, a stark contrast to the flowing curves of my mountain home. Other horses were there, their eyes dull, their spirits muted. Some bore the marks of the ropes and the harsh hands of the two-leggeds. A deep loneliness settled in my heart, a cold, heavy stone. I missed the warmth of my mother, the playful challenges of the other foals, the freedom to run until my lungs burned and my heart sang. I would stand for hours, staring through the wooden slats, my gaze fixed on the distant hills, willing my herd to appear and rescue me. They never came. My captors called me Storm. They saw the fire in my eyes, the untamed spirit that refused to be broken. A man, older than the others, with kind eyes and hands that moved slowly, approached my pen day after day. He didn't carry a rope. He brought sweet-smelling hay and apples that crunched delightfully. He spoke in a low, calm voice, not the harsh shouts I was used to. He never tried to touch me, just sat nearby, telling me stories of the sky and the seasons. At first, I flattened my ears and turned my back, a silent rejection of his world. But his patience was as vast as the plains I missed. Slowly, cautiously, my fear began to war with my curiosity. He was different. He didn't want to conquer me. He seemed to want to understand me. One day, driven by annoying hunger and a flicker of trust, I took a step forward. Then another. I stretched my neck and gingerly took an apple from his outstretched hand. Its sweetness was a burst of sunshine in my dark world. It was the first bridge between his world and mine. The man, whose name I learned was Elias, began my training. It wasn't about breaking my will, but about building a partnership. He taught me to accept a halter, not with force, but with gentle repetition and reward. The first time he laid a saddle blanket on my back, I trembled, my instincts screaming to bolt, but his calm voice was a steady anchor. He didn't push. He waited until I understood it meant no harm. The day he placed the heavy leather saddle on me was a bigger test. I danced and sidestepped, my muscles tense, but he just kept talking, his voice a soothing melody, until I stood still, breathing heavily. accepting the strange weight. The biggest challenge came when he put his foot in the stirrup. Every fiber of my being wanted to rear, to throw off this creature daring to climb onto my back. But then I looked into his eyes, and I saw not a conqueror, but a friend. I saw respect. I held my ground. When he finally settled into the saddle, his weight was surprisingly light, balanced. He didn't pull on the reins or kick my sides. He just sat there, letting me feel his presence, his trust. In that moment, something shifted. We were no longer captive and captor. We were two beings, sharing a single moment of quiet understanding. Our first ride was not in the dusty pen, but out through an open gate. My heart hammered against my ribs. Frida? The instinct to bolt, to run for the hills and never look back, was a powerful, primal urge. I could feel the wild calling to me, but Elias's hands were light on the reins. His posture relaxed. He wasn't confining me. He was guiding me. We moved at a walk, then a trot, my hooves finding a familiar rhythm on the earth. He let me choose the path, leading us toward the rolling foothills I had stared at for so long. The wind caught my mane, and for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, I tasted freedom again. But it was a different kind of freedom. It wasn't the wild, chaotic running of my youth. It was a shared journey. I wasn't alone. With Elias, I explored canyons and crossed streams. My fear of the two-legged world slowly replaced by a deep and abiding bond with this one man. He showed me that trust could be a stronger tie than any rope. I was still Storm, a creature of the wild plains, but I had found a new herd, a herd of two. One spring morning, as the sun painted the eastern sky in hues of rose and gold, Elias led me to the highest ridge overlooking the valley. We stood there, the wind whipping around us, and looked out at the vast expanse. Far below, a line of dark shapes moved across the plains. A herd. My herd. My heart leaped. A painful, joyous ache. A powerful neigh, carried on the wind, reached my ears. It was my sire. I answered, a call that tore from my soul, a sound full of longing and memory. The herd stopped. A mare, my mother, lifted her head, her gaze fixed on the ridge. She recognized my call. For a long moment, the world stood still. Elias dismounted. He unbuckled my saddle, his movements slow and deliberate. He slid the bridle from my head. He stood before me, his hand resting on my neck, his eyes full of a sad, beautiful understanding. He whispered my name, his voice thick with emotion. Go, Storm, be free. He stepped back. The path was clear. My family was waiting. Freedom was a single gallop away. I looked at my mother, her silhouette a beacon of my past. Then I looked at Elias, the man who had taught me that a cage is not always made of wood, and that freedom can be found in the trust of a friend. My heart was torn. The wild called to me, a song woven into my very being. But a new song had taken root in my heart.